Hello, hello. Welcome back to Stumptown Radio, Portland Thorns edition, but also holiday special edition. To join me on this special episode, I am joined by the Emma Sweat making her return. Emma, how are you? How are the holidays?
Hi everyone, I am good. The holidays are well. We're recording this on the 22nd, so definitely getting in the spirit, and I'm so happy to be getting in the spirit on this pod. Super exciting episode, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, yeah, I think folks should know this is your idea too, Emma, to this special episode. So we're looking forward to doing our top moments from the season, but also New Year's resolutions for the Portland Thorns. And then also joining us on this special episode is Melina Gaspar. Melina, how are you?
Hey, Phuoc. Hey, Emma. Glad to have you back. Doing well. I really hate December, so I cannot wait until this is over. So yeah, I hate summer and I hate December.
Yes, Melina's been very consistent about her messaging about this. So, if you've not been hearing the last few episodes, that's all she's been saying. So, it's been fantastic. But though, I think the great thing about this time of the year is, we get to kind of look back, be thankful for a lot of things, and just kind of reflect a lot more, you know what I mean? And to do that, let's look at kind of like the top moments from the season. Emma, let's start with you. So let's do kind of we'll kind of rotate a little bit. We'll do like a top 10 moments, but what do you kind of have that stood out to you the most?
When you first brought up the idea of, okay, let's like make this a holiday special podcast, I thought that was so fun. So the first thing that came to my head, and these is in no particular order, but the first thing that came to my head for the Thorns this season that was one of my favorite moments was JP's penalty kick in extra time to get the draw at home versus Racing Louisville. And our wonderful photog Kelsey Baker got such a great shot of that moment. And that is, as I'm saying that, that is what's like illuminating my brain is JP just cool, calm, collected confidence. Like, of course, I was gonna make that PK. Like, we were not gonna lose to Racing at home. And I think what stood out to me from that moment too was it just showed the grit that this team had so early on. I don't know if you guys remember that game, but it was physical, it was mental, it took a toll on the on both teams. And I know it took a toll on the Thorns. That was when Jessie Fleming had her infamous press conference after the game. And I think that just showed like what grit this team was going to have this year and that they were never going to go down without a fight. And then at the same time, for a rookie who is stepping up due to injuries and all these other things on the Thorns, and one of those moments, those huge moments, and what would turn out to be a result that the Thorns would need down the line. I think it just was like a sneak peek into what was in store for this team this year. And I think it is an underrated moment. And it's definitely been one of my favorites from this year.
Well, I'm so glad you shared that because she did something similar against what is it at San Diego with in front of her family and friends too. Like that's so special. The fact that she scored on all three PKs this year says everything you need to know about just the ice cold veins that she has, and just kind of like that's who she is. She's a gamer. You know what I mean? Like I think Rob Gale said it a lot this year season, but also a lot of the other coaches as well. So looking forward to her development. She's been with the U23s for the past few matches, doing really good there. Then Melina, what do you have as your number one moment from this season?
Well, the first one I want to mention is the win against Seattle Reign on August 10th. It was a big win. I mean, Providence Park was packed. More than 21,000 people were there, fans. So first the ambience, the whole thing there inside the stadium must have been nuts. You guys must have known that better than I do. And well, it was like a kind of like it killed the mood that Seattle scored first, minute three. I mean, that was pretty early. But then that game had four different goal scorers, and those four were very important for Portland this year. So I think it's pretty awesome. Like Coffee, she drew the match. Then Turner 2-1. Then Reyes 55, and of course, Fishlock was going to make an appearance, making a statement there. So he had everything, and then Pietra Jordan scored the 4-2. By the time Jordan scored, I think it was the game was decided, but still, it was 4-2 against Seattle, back Providence Park. And yeah, it is always nice to win against Seattle. So I think that's pretty good. That was a pretty good win. And yeah, that's my number one.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that one up because that is the best rivalry in women's sports. I think we will all kind of stand by that over and over. We'll make that statement over and over. And I think it's so special because it's so organic, right? You talk to Laura Harvey, you talk to any of the Portland Thorns coaches, they'll say how organic it is. Like they hate each other, but they respect each other in the same breath. So it's beautiful to watch, especially the way Seattle celebrated on at Lumen Field the first time they won during the season, and then kind of Portland responding to that. I think that's kind of where Melina is kind of shining the light too, which I really love. For me, my number one is Bella Bixby. I think it's so damn special when you get to be the hometown hero. You are going to have your name in the record books for the rest of, whenever that record stands. But the fact that she gets to do it for her hometown club, hometown hero, and just, in front of Ruby and her, and her family and her loved ones and her partner, like it does not get much better than that, right? Like it doesn't get much better than, having those folks in front of you, behind you, and then also just the Riveters who have been behind her from the day one, right? The fact that she get to do it before the international break, back-to-back shutouts, the way she did it, excellent player. And when we asked her about it during the press post game, she said it means everything. And I think that's special, especially for a player who means everything to the club, to the Portland Thorns. I think that's special. And yeah, I remember Kelsey Baker, our wonderful photographer, also getting a perfect shot of one of those saves to get the job done. And it had like the perfect backdrop and everything too. It was one of the best photos I've seen in my life. So you all know what I'm talking about. So just be sure to check out Kelsey Baker's Instagram page. Kelsey, I guess we're just going to give you a bunch of shout outs on this podcast as well. So, and then Emma, what do you have for your next one?
I wish this one was a visual podcast and we could put all of all the pictures that we're talking about because they are such great encapsulations of these moments too. And we're so grateful to have Kelsey there for every step of the way to put visuals to these moments that we get to write about. My second one, this one, obviously, we have to give a shout out to Sink Night, her jersey retirement, and what that meant for the city of Portland, for the Thorns organization, for women's sports as a whole, to see these powerful women's jerseys and being up in names and numbers being up in the rafters is just going to make an impact on so many young girls and women in sports. And I'm just so stoked to see where the future takes women's sports. And on that same note, I wanted to shout out Sync Night for one of my favorites because we also got to see that was one of the nights where we really began to see the passing of the torch. Liv Moultrie really was starting to get hot at that point in the Thorn season. And especially on that night, that was when her season really began to become historic. And I think it would be a shame not to shout out Liv's success this year and the way that we got to see her grow into a player. And that night is just one embodiment of what she did for this franchise this year and what she will continue to do as she continues to make Portland her home. And a 2-1 win, always great at home on a night as historic as that one.
Yeah, Emma, like great shout there. Like especially when they had to do it in comeback fashion too, right? Like what is it? I think the stat was they led the league in comeback wins, but unfortunately that's because they let the 15-minute monster, as you call it, bite them a little bit too much this season. But they figured out a way to get a lot of results coming back. So that was definitely a special night. Then Melina, what do you have for your next one?
Well, it's not actually a moment, but it's about the fans because there is an interesting stat about how the average attendance for Providence Park this season was 18,173 per match. And we know that different teams in WSL are growing in attendance, and that's great. Among them, Angel City, Washington Spirit. And many say that the when you're inside the field, like the whole vibe and everything, it's great. But I still, even though I haven't been there, I still believe that nothing matches and Providence Park. So the fact that even though those teams are doing great and are winning things and they're among them fans, it's great and helps the league to grow and everything like that. Still, I think Portland leads in that regard, and this stat proves it. And it's by far the highest attendance in the league per match. So I already mentioned the 21,000, almost 22,000 fans for the clash between the and the Cascadia Clásico this year at Province Park, but there were other nights that the stadium was packed, like on Pride night. So I think it's not actually a moment, like I said, but I think it's worth mentioning because it demonstrates that Portland is Soccer City, USA, and the other cities still have a long way to go.
The fact that you're bringing that up and the fact that every single player still mentions it when they resign or sign with Portland in general says everything you need to know, right? Like they always mention the fan base, they always mention the Riveters, they always sold, a lot of it's a dream come true for for these players, right? To get the roaring fan base behind them, walking out of the tunnel. I know they get chills just hearing that support. So I think it's really special that you brought that up, Melina. And then my second one was Mackenzie Arnold, Macca getting her flowers, getting her roses in the finale, right? At home, right? We're talking about ending the season with three consecutive shutouts, but during that home playoff match, she got a roaring ovation. She went down multiple times. She got knocked down over and over, kept getting back up, and then you finally heard something. She said it was the first time she heard it was "She's our keeper" chant, right? And it's special because you think about her coming into Portland last, like midseason last year, didn't get adjusted right away. Took a long time to get adjusted to the league, the speed, the physicality, everything, right? Then this season, a lot of ups and downs, especially with a young team, a revolving door, in the back line, so much rotation going on. And, did she make excuses? Never, right? She just wanted to go out there, play football, do her best. And the fact that, she put it in one, her best performance when they needed it the most, I think is special, right? And then you think about, just all the outside noise that she has to deal with as a goalkeeper, and then also to try to kind of live up to like a hometown hero like Bella Bixby, right? I think it's so difficult, especially when you have to follow something like that and you want to make your own name, right? And the fact that she kind of got that moment is a long time coming for her, for sure, but it's one deserved, right? Like you look at all her metrics and stuff, we don't even need to talk about that. Like she is one of the best goalkeepers in this league. The fact that everyone's recognizing that now and the fact that she had a performance where you're just like, okay, everyone's going to remember that performance. You know what I mean? I think that's special to have those type of moments, especially in front of Providence Park. Like you said, Melina, people will remember those certain moments and they'll never forget it. So I think that was special to bring up, especially just her resilience and her determination and her resolve to get to where she is today. It's special. And then Emma, do you have one more for us?
I do have one more, and it's on a similar note. It's also talking about that last final home match, and particularly getting the quarterfinal win in the NWSL playoffs. I think it exceeded people's expectations to even see the Thorns in the playoffs this year. It surpassed expectations, them getting a home playoff game, but then to also win that playoff game and make it to the NWSL semifinals, unreal. It is something that I still don't have the words to put to it because this team just is one of a, it was truly one of a kind. And to see them be able to shut out all of the noise and I know that they think that they fell short and I know that they wanted to achieve so much more, but they've also recognized that what they did this season was nothing short of amazing. And for me in particular, that playoff win versus just a playoff appearance, I think just put the stamp of approval on it from the entire nation. And I think that's going to be such a special moment in the season for this club to look back on in the years to come. I know this season has been full of so much history, and we've talked about Sink's retirement and all these players that have come and gone and what the future looks like for the Thorns, and Sam Coffey being that person who is trying to incorporate the history into this season in this team. Well, now they have their own piece of history to add to that. And I think that that is so special that this group, who is always kind of falling back to and being compared to what the Thorns used to be and what they were, they are who the Thorns are now. And they have that accolade now in their back pocket, and that's credibility. And so I think that that win at home, hosting a home playoff game was just so huge, and that might even be my number one favorite moment from this season. I don't know. I think this season was just full of so many great ones.
Yeah, indeed. I think, like you mentioned, you gave a nod to Sinky there. We're talking about Becky Sauerbrunn too, who got her retirement this year, and then you're talking about Kling, who they need to do right by her as well. But yeah, there's just so many special leaders, and then just the way that the Thorns kind of fought off 90 minutes of like San Diego Wave attacks into the final two periods where they just dominated, right? And of course, it was Olivia Moultrie finding Raylan Turner, who scored her first goal in months, right? And it doesn't get much better than that. Like I think that's why sports is beautiful, right? So love, just the nod there. And then Melina, what do you have for your final moment?
It's related to what Emma mentioned. It's when they clinched the playoff spot against when they play against Angel City. I think it was important because it was on the road, and it has happened before that sometimes when Portland needs to get a win and maybe it's a winnable match, it doesn't happen for whatever reason. So it's kind of frustrating. But they did what they had to do. And also Emma mentioned Olivia Moultrie scoring 2 goals against Bay. Well, in this game, Olivia Moultrie was again very important. She scored both goals against Angel City. So I think it was a huge moment, not only for the team, but for this player particularly. And it was great because we always kind of like leave for granted that Portland is gonna qualify for playoffs, but in such a challenging year that they couldn't do it again, and that's something normal. But it's great. I mean, it was the ninth consecutive postseason appearance, so also the amount of points they secured this season, even though they had their ups and downs, it was according to the data the highest point total since 2022. So that's, I think, something commendable too. And yeah, that's why I chose this game as my third moment.
Yeah, I will kind of end with a few moments here, which is, Sam Coffey being the de facto leader for this team. I think it's special when you have a one of a kind leader. Like if you have 100 Thorns teams, I think people would vote for Sam Coffey. Her teammates would vote for her 100 times. I truly believe that, right? So I think the fact that they now Soph Wilson's coming back, like we mentioned, but the fact that they have Sam Coffey who knows exactly every single one of her teammates inside and out, knows exactly what they need on every given day. I don't think people understand how important that is, right? Emma, you've played, high level of sport, like one of the highest levels of sports you can play. You know exactly what those leaders do for, like a locker room. But the two names I also want to give a quick shout out to was, I think Kaya Hanks, first off, came off unfortunately, is, recovering right now. But by the time she comes back, I think she's gonna come back with a vengeance. First off, I think I would be scared if I was a defender in this league. If I was a defender in this league, I would probably, just let her run past you because she is going to do it anyways. She's gonna dribble past you. She's gonna figure out ways to do it. She's become like you can tell from the first game to her last game, she became so smart. She's always been that brilliant, but she kind of started putting in those pieces together towards, and then getting she was about to get a U.S. women's national team nod as well. But the fact that they ran their attack around her as the focal point is so special, right? But I think what really shined to me the most, not her athleticism, but I'm talking about her brilliance, her pitch IQ. She is so bright out there. You can tell she's methodically thinking at all times, and it really shows out there, right? And then I think it's a key thing is we're talking about the captain, we're talking about the leadership on this team. Another big figure for that is Sam Hyatt, who won the Lauren Holiday Impact Award. Okay, and that is the MVP of off pitch things, right? The fact that she did such a great job on pitch, and then she took it off pitch too, and the story behind it is so inspirational. And when I first talked to her, I think she mentioned about baking cakes in her spare time for kids who just don't have anybody who does that for them, right? For foster care, things like that. That's just who she is as a human being. And I think for us, especially here at Stumptown Footy, but here in Portland too, the city of Portland, we love people who, love to help other people. We love people who are community people, right? And Sim Hyatt winning that award says everything you need to know about her as a person, and that's really special, right? So I think that's one of the coolest awards you can definitely win, and it's one of the most impactful as well. So I think so many great moments from the season on the pitch, off the pitch, whatever. And, just to kind of go over all those moments together, that was pretty special that, what we were able to kind of look back. And honestly, it's a lot of fond memories, obviously, a lot of great stories, and a lot of resilience, especially for a team where they didn't have as many expectations and things like that, right? Especially from the media perspective. So, but then we have one more part of this podcast. We're going to go over New Year's resolutions, right? So, we're going to do it with a Thorns version. So, if we have one New Year's resolution each for the Portland Thorns, what would it be? Let's start with Emma.
Mine is the most obvious. It is health and prosperity in the new year for the Portland Thorns. And I think mine's more of a manifestation. I'm manifesting this for the players, for this team, for this organization. We've seen what they can do when their backs are against the walls and when they're battling injuries and next player up mentality, and teams were scared of them. And I think in the new year, starting the 2026 season with a healthy roster, with a Sophia Wilson, who is back on the supposedly going to be back on the pitch for this team, what is there not to be excited about? And if only we can see them at their full health and capacity, it'll be something special. So that is definitely what I am manifesting for them. And I think what everybody is. So I'm just going to make that a general statement for Portland Thorns fans, period.
Yes, I think that will be the number one on most people's lists. Perfect, perfect, Emma. And then Melina, what is your New Year's resolution for the Portland Thorns?
I guess it's get the glory back. I want the club to be the place where players want to go, either players in the US or outside, like get those days back. Of course, a lot will have to do with the coach and the work he or she will do. So yeah, but I just hope that little by little they can become that place again, because well, we know Sophia signed for 1 more year, and a lot will depend if she stays or not on that. I guess if they can get that glory back, and so that can convince her or any other player, important player, to go to Portland.
Melina, speaking of the glory, just the traditions, right, of Portland Thorns and the excellence that everyone expects from this type of club, right? The fact that you mentioned the head coach, I think is so pivotal, right? And they just, these players, this locker room deserve a coach worthy of them, right? One that they can trust in the locker room, one that they can trust tactically to have their best interests at heart, tactically to put them out in positions to succeed, right? So that's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. But I think that's a great resolution for me. I think they need to go all in, right? If you brought back Soph Wilson, it's time for you to show her why she's back, right? And I think there's one glaring position that everyone's looking at. It's center back, right? Go sign a stud center back, whether that's, I'll have a list out in the next few days so folks can look at that. But whether that's the top name in college, whether that's a top up and coming stud center back in Europe, whether that's, somebody domestically in NWSL, right? There's so many options available to the point where they know, if they don't hit the first option, got to hit your second or third option, right? So I think to do, to take this team to the next level, to restore the glory, like Melina mentioned, they need to go all in, right? Bring in another. They're a few pieces away from truly being the best, roster in my opinion. Okay, then fill out those final pieces, and then they can be selective about it, right? So I think that's definitely the special part of the holiday season for the Portland Thorns. They are in a great position, but now they need to finish off with the final pieces. But that will be all from us at Stumptown Footy. Before we head out, want to do some final thoughts with Emma and Melina, especially during the holiday season. Emma, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to everyone. This was my first year at Stumptown Footy, my first covering a season. I think I started back in February, and it has just been such a fun experience to learn more about this organization, about these fans, about what it means to be a Portland Thorn, and getting to cover this team in particular was so special and will be something in my career that I reflect on is just the grittiness and the never say no mentality that this team had this year. And it was such a special moment, and it was so special to be able to share it with my co-contributors here at Stumptown Footy, but also all of our amazing supporters, readers, listeners. And it's just been such a great year. And I hope that you all have had felt the same way or felt the same way during some moments during 2025, even if it wasn't the best. For the majority of it, I hope the Thorns and what we do here was able to bring you some joy, and we appreciate your support. And I'm looking forward to continuing this journey with you all in 2026. And I hope everyone has a very happy holiday season.
Well, first off, Emma, we're really grateful for you, especially your storytelling that you did during the season. I think Emma has an eye for stories, though, honestly, the same way I do, where we want to tell stories that aren't heard enough. We want to tell stories of, grit, determination, things like that, right? And the fact that, you were able to do that your first season, like, literally looked like you've been here for a while. So that's really cool. And then Melina, final thoughts from you.
Well, I always thank the listeners and the readers, but I also wanted to thank you guys and the entire Stampton Footy cast and crew for this year. You guys are amazing, are very easy to work with. So yeah, I'm grateful for you guys, and also for the people that have had a tough year. Just keep hanging in there, and those who had an amazing year, well, happy for you, and continue with that, doing what you are doing.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just very straightforward. Thankful for everyone I got to interact with over the past few seasons here. And I think the biggest thing is, we are the only dedicated Portland Thorns podcast, right? Like, I think it's a privilege that we take with a lot of pride, a lot of honor. And for you all to expect something, every single week, knowing that you'll get that from us, I think it's really cool. The fact that you supported us through another move, we moved to from what is it, SB Nation to Substack to Ghosts, right? And we're hoping this is it, this is final. But the fact that you keep supporting us, moving with us, and that means the world to us. And the fact that you appreciate the storytelling that we do, but also just whether it's game coverage, features, whatnot, like it's pretty special that we get to do this every single season. From all of us at Sometime Footy, we're wishing you a happy holidays with you, your family, and your loved ones. And we'll see you again soon.